Cats, a welcomed addition or a nerfed distraction? Genesis remastered revisions, and has Lost Colony been in work for much longer than we thought? You're right, kids, it's Raasclark, and welcome to your regular ARK community news. Before we begin, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, share around, and let's get into it. So Community Crunch 452 arrives to us with a reminder that yes, we got a cat this week in ARK. An April Fool's joke now turned an actual legit thing in the game, and no, it's not going anywhere, as a few people out there have said. This is a permanent creature within the game and was met to a resounding welcomed audience for perhaps a few several factors. One of which, of course, is cats. Everyone loves cats, so that one's ticked off there. It turns out that Wildcard are definitely fans of cats in how much they've been praising the arrival of this. 2, that it's a free edition, and it's insane that we have to be saying that in 2025, but that is certainly the case with ARK, and a lot of people out there, especially on ASE, are wishing that this cat would come to them, and is this going to persuade some people to play ASA just for this cat? But 3, and I think the most important arrival with this creature, is simply its characteristics, its animations, its more true to nature behaving AI. In a game with other creatures almost 10 years old, this really does make them pale in comparison, simply being an idle animated creature sitting in your base, a plethora of things it can do whilst chilling about, and on wonder it can do, and on wonder it can spark itself into a range of animations. It's definitely a more living, breathing creature than most of the times that you get in the game so far. Most likely owed to the developers having more experience with Unreal 5 now and unlocking the potential of what they can or can't do with creatures introduced to ARK. It definitely warrants a much needed TLC for all older creatures especially. And if you forgot, Jeremy did say during the last year's Extra Life live stream that they were hoping to look at TLCs this year for all of the creatures, so fingers crossed that is going to happen. But this also does open the door to other Atlas assets, because as you know, cats, or you may not know, Atlas, the unofficial sister game to ARK, introduced a range of creatures with the arrival of that, and we've seen in at least modded form a bunch of them moving over to ARK, and now of course this cat model definitely had some work done to it, but nonetheless definitely taken from the asset that was introduced with that game. And as a result, could we be seeing the arrival of more creatures from Atlas following the warming success of this? With Atlas in 2025 seemingly abandoned this year with less and less support as the years have gone on, it would be a shame to see at least the assets just be left out in the dark. And could we be seeing the arrival of all of those features being pulled over to ARK as a result? Though it'd be great to see Atlas being given the love and care it deserves. But already the cat has been given some additional love with the introduction of its able to scare compies now, which adds to the pegos, seagulls and microraptors. It's a wonder if they're going to introduce any more pest control as time ticks on, with an increased spawn rate of them on top, so you should be able to be finding these a bit easier out there in the wild. But there was a bit of a hush nerf with the arrival of this patch, and that was the ability to lure a cat to water to get the thing swimming, so you could easily passively tame it there. And I did think at the time this seemed a bit exploitive, and turned out to be true. Wildcard have now patched that, so you've now got to figure out a way to befriend a cat to properly tame it the right way. And honestly, I don't even know how you do that. But it's not been met to a completely resounding welcome. There's quite a lot of people out there that are saying, come on, this is just a distraction. You can't just bring in cats and that's how to fix ARK. It feels out of place, and turn your attention to the core problems that really do need to get fixed. But there's been most definitely a bunch of fixes. Of course, we covered 100 earlier this week, and a range have just been dropped as well. With one particular one, a standout one at least for me, was when dismounting a creature on low performing servers, you would disconnect, which was a real pain in the bum that you didn't know whether you could safely dismount or not. That's now no longer the issue, with a bunch of fixes, all pretty much bug related and nothing really that exciting to talk about beyond this one. I dare say in at least the last few weeks that the patches are coming thick and fast, with a lot of things being fixed. The problem is with ARK and so many different gameplay elements and so many different ways to play it and so many different features, with the combined introduction of new features, new companion DLC content such as the recent animated skins, there's even more stuff to patch, even more stuff to get on top, and as a result I would imagine does spread the team a bit more thin. thinly. He is hoping that they're expanding the team. If they're adding more content, they're going to need more people to fix the content, right? But something nobody thought needed fixing apart from Wildcard was Yeelings. You know them, they came out with Aberration like last year, and since then they've been a pretty decent creature to use, and frankly a bit OP in some regards. We had a How Powerful video on that and saw these things absolutely destroy creatures out in the wild. The AI on these things, even unridden, are insane. Love to see them. Well, Wildcard decided to reduce the spawns in Aberration by approximately 50%, as well as the Dinosuchuses on the island in the centre by 50%, as well as its base poison damage per stack from 7 to 3, and the amount scaled with melee damage from 1x to 0.575x to put the poison damage higher versus armored targets and razor damage higher versus unarmored targets. And I won't lie to you, I don't know what that means. Somebody out there hopefully will know what that means. Admittedly, it's not a creature I find myself using all the time, and in fact haven't really used much since its arrival in Aberration, but it's definitely a cool creature and definitely a pain, a hostile pain to wander into Aberration and try and avoid. It was great at least to have that scare appeal, that fear factor with running into one of these things and knowing if you weren't prepared you were going to get your face well and truly taken off. It's a bit of a shame that I'm sure whatever Wildcard are seeing we're not seeing. There must be some exploiting with those different multipliers, but it's done. They're nerfed. Bit of a shame, but that's that. But if you want to check out some other creatures, ARK got another wipe going on right now. In fact, it's already wiped with the next wipe on May the 2nd with the best rates you're going to possibly get, unofficial, and of course has a 1 monthly wipe for you to get a bit carefree with your PvP. Reintroducing the Desolate Titan, the Magna Gecko, Dracoteuthis, and as well as awesome Spyglass Better Breeding, Gaia Studios Potions, and ARK Arsenal, which is interesting because this is an exact replica to the mods they introduced to last month, which is a little strange considering they've introduced new mods with every wipe of ARK so far. But this is the first month they've said, no, we like all these mods, let's do them again. Maybe they're attempting to readdress these once again as actual features that the players are enjoying, and could we be seeing some push to push them into official? I doubt it very much, but it's definitely a bit bizarre we're seeing these 2 months in a row, right? As well as that, wiping Conquest official servers are wiping too going into Season 4. And now I know this is a bit of a controversial topic because if you don't know, Conquest servers are ran by Snail Games, and well, you know all the drama we've had with Snail Games, so you take this one with a pinch of salt if you want to or not. But frankly, it is the only server cluster that offers a version of PvP that discourages cave building or rat holes. A big one for me. I really do wish we could get away from cave building or rat holes. And with 30 servers available at launch on April the 9th at 10:30 AM PDT, with tribe limits up to 25, 5x, and sadly much more tech introduced this season than would really excite me. I don't know whether I'm going to get stuck in or not, but it's worth talking about if you wanted a bit of no cave meta PvP. There you go. So a few days ago we retweeted something on Twitter that I saved until today to talk about Nanostel, who of course is becoming the new ARK lore nerd if you don't know about already. Found a few nuggets out there in the wild through concept work made by Caleb Havatape, showing some initial imagery for Genesis Part 1 bug biome and of course the volcanic biome. There was one particular concept created way back when for a no man's land that was going to tie in with Extinction. And all you've got to do is simply watch the tail end of the Lost Colony trailer to see there's a visible comparison between the two, set in a frozen, icy looking fortress with ominous red blood looking lakes. Could this have been some idea to introduce the setting of Arat Prime where Lost Colony will be taking place? I don't know though, I'm torn. I think maybe there's a possibility this could have simply been their first thoughts on where the King Titan Arena was going to be held. But hey, it's definitely worth some consideration. The location of Arat Prime is no secret. It's always been in the lore of where this place was set and how it led us through to Genesis Part 1 and 2, though you had to do some serious digging and needed people like Neddy the Noodle and now Nanostel to help unpack that information to us to really understand what the hell was going on. So it definitely could have been a possibility that Wildcard wanted to set up the location of Arat Prime within the ending of Extinction to help to move you to Gem 1. But then again, don't forget, originally Extinction was going to be their last map. It's never been officially confirmed, but everything tied together pretty well to see that Atlas was the game that was hoping to move on to, and then Extinction completely blew up ARK. The popularity of ARK skyrocketed with the arrival of Extinction, and unfortunately with the, well, let's be honest, butchered release it had, everyone turned back to ARK with the introduction of a new writer, Peter Frey, to finish off the story into Genesis Part 1 and 2. It's a real wonder actually, what if Atlas had had that bang-on, well-performing launch that it needed, with so many giant creators, much bigger than even ARK creators, were all covering this on day one. And if it had been the resounding success it wanted to be, could it have seen ARK diminish and everyone move over to that as a result? We'll never know now, because history was told as it was told, and we're here now back playing ARK, and now 10 years later still playing ARK. And speaking of the Genesis maps, where originally, I don't want to remind you about this, but we were already meant to have been playing Genesis Part 1 by now, and Genesis 2 was meant to be next month, which earlier this year got to be announced pushed back way into April 2026 and August 2026 respectively of the two maps. Let me remind you, there was a small reason for this that the devs explained with the ongoing work throughout the year. They want to take a bit more time to give the Genesis Ascended remaster the love and attention it deserves. With me perhaps a bit too hopeful on what that means, but really looking at a few features we didn't find welcomed with the arrival of those maps, such as the walled borders of Gen 1 and the, frankly, lack of exploration with Gen 2, but focusing on that Gen 1 criticism that I feel like a lot of people out there share the same opinion of, whereby we'd prefer to drop all the walled borders and allow some natural travelling between each biome. Well, Caleb, who made the concept artwork that we just showed for Genesis 1 and possibly for Extinction Lost Colony, well, did an actual concept piece here that seemed to suggest they were contemplating the idea of blending a few biomes, with seemingly in this shot a combination of the lunar biome, the Arctic, maybe the bug there, and possibly a nod out to the ocean in the background. All this could have simply have been just an idea of what the lunar was going to be. But I don't know, man, I feel like there's definitely elements of each of the regions, excluding the volcano, that we got with Genesis Part 1 originally. So maybe there is a shred of hope that what Wildcard are saying ambiguously in giving it some more attention and love, and maybe that concept work there and some fan demand, some fan criticism, that we could be seeing for the first time a very different version of the ASE maps into their ASA revisions. With one map we're all excited for its ASA revision coming, well, now in 2 months' time, Raasclark being made by the original Ragnarok devs. A lot of excitement for this one, but it is 2 months away. So the question is, what are you going to do for the next 2 months? Comment below. Until the next one. My name's Raasclark. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always,